Hey guys, it's Corey. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up before the episode starts. There was a small little technical issue for the first 40 seconds or so. I apologize. We get into it in the show, but don't think we're leaving you hanging with a terrible sounding episode. So with that, this week's episode.
Shower. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem Podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 233 of the O The Anthem Podcast. It is 8:41 p.m. Pacific. That makes it 11:41 p.m. Eastern Time. And O The Anthem is live from coast to coast, broadcasting from the hashtag OTA LA studios high above the 110 freeway in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for watching us on Facebook. Hopefully this time the audio is working properly. If you're hearing the sound of our voice, let us know.
I see movement. I see movement on the dials.
I see the thing moving. Other than that,
Please join us on Instagram, Twitter, all over the place at O The Anthem.
You're really bad at this part of it.
Well, I got thrown off because I realized that I didn't hit the record button before we started.
Oh, no!
But if it's going through there, then we're good. We didn't lose the first 30 seconds of the podcast.
So hopefully we are, you're catching this, but you can also catch more of us at O The Anthem on all your social networks, at O The Anthem on Twitter and Instagram, most importantly. And of course, Facebook.com/O The Anthem, where you're watching this right now, if you're lucky. If you're not, you can see this on Tuesday. I don't know. Maybe watch the video on YouTube, youtube.com/O The Anthem.
Or download it on your podcatcher of choice.
Yeah. Or maybe go to OTheAnthem.com where you can check that out.
Yeah.
And in any case, you can let us know what you think about the show, either live right now or later on this week by calling into the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's the number again?
It's 443-219-7595. There's that number on the screen if you're watching the video. And we're happy to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So I would say that just real quick, the recorder that we used to use for the podcast, I wouldn't be able to hear until I hit record. But on this one, you can hear beforehand. So that's the problem. I can monitor it before I hit record, and then sometimes I look over and I'm like, oh shit.
I hear a lot of excuses.
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
Well, last week wasn't my problem. I'm just saying. I admit my mistakes.
I mean,
I
checked it beforehand. I don't know what to tell you. It happened in the mid-time. But you know what else I don't know what to tell you about? This.
Oh, that?
Yeah, everyone at home can hear it. That's the important thing. We don't have a cough button, so there's nothing I can do about that. Folks.
I could mute us.
I mean, it's a lot to mute everything, right?
I gotta...
Oh, yeah, no, don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it.
We just need a cough button. That's what we need. Or, you know what? I could have muted it right here.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a lot of...
I feel like there's a lot of inside baseball.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of baseball, sports ball. I have no interest in talking about baseball whatsoever because I've been checked out since April. But Corey wants to talk about baseball, so hey, Corey, let's talk about baseball.
I don't need to have a long, drawn-on thing about baseball. I'm just saying that we're getting very close to the end of the season, so teams have started to lock up their playoff spots. Boston has the best record. Cleveland and Houston also won divisions in the AL, and the Yankees and the A's are going to the playoffs and going to the wild card, I think.
This season might as well be 1994 to me.
1994?
Yes.
Oh, like the loss of the strike year?
Yep.
Yeah.
I just stopped caring. It's as if baseball didn't exist, and whoever wins the World Series this year, who cares?
What's so funny is that Atlanta is the only one who's clinched in the NL. Mm-hmm. Everything's so like tight over there. Not even any of the divisions other than the East are up for grabs. Interesting thing. Anywho, football. Where everyone else's attention is paid right now.
Oh, yeah. So, a couple of things to talk about. I mean, I don't want to shortchange you. Do you want to talk about baseball? It's just...
No,
it's like...
I think it's nice that the A's made the playoffs. I mean, that's a new team that hasn't been in the playoffs for a while, so...
You know what we could talk about?
What?
Your championship fantasy baseball team.
No, we talked about that last week.
I know. I just wanted to rip open the scab on that.
I didn't even.
How's that doing?
I didn't even see how my team did in the consolation round. Oh, won 10-4. Maybe
the balloons let you know that it's good.
I wish, every single time we get eliminated from the playoffs and like really close week like I had last week,
Yeah.
I always want to do that. Like, I'm going to play just as hard as I would if I
Right.
was still in it to see how I would match up against my opponents into the finals
Yeah.
and then see if I win in the end. But I'm just like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
It's been too much.
I'm
Been
not
too
going
much.
through all that trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, dropping people and adding people to like screw with other people who are still in contention.
Why not? I
What?
would.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
bitter
like once you're in
that.
the playoffs and it's like consolation, like unless it's to field the team,
Right.
like, if your catcher gets hurt and you want to replace him with another catcher, that's perfectly fair.
Okay.
But if somebody just starts hitting really well and you pick them up to get the extra bonus, or you like, you say to yourself like, oh, I know that. I'm trying to think of a player that wouldn't have been picked up. Jonathan VR hits really well against right-handers, so I'm going to pick up VR for this 3-game series because it's 3 right-handers. But no,
Okay.
it's whatever. But in fantasy football, I beat Rachel.
Here's the thing.
I beat her well.
You can tell how much
117 to 108.
how much I do not want to play fantasy baseball by the amount of effort you just described in like not putting in effort.
Things I don't do.
The things you don't do, and I'm just like, no, thank you. I have no interest in any of that.
I like when I'm like really in the thick of it, like trying to gain every point in fantasy baseball, and I'm like on the Weather Channel going like, is it gonna rain in Cincinnati today?
Yeah. Yeah, I need
Because
some
if it
home
rains in
runs.
Cincinnati, I don't want to play the player who's going to play today.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll get a rain out and they'll get 2 games tomorrow, so I get double the things from one player.
Right.
And like you do the calculus and everything like that, and you're like, all right, so I've decided I'm going to start
What is Carly doing right now?
beating up on Unicorny.
By the way, the most unique names of any of our toys. Yes. Carly Cruz, off mic once again with us this week.
Rachel has named all of her toys, which I think is particularly pecan.
Yeah, but the names are just basically the thing that it is with a Mr. or Miss in front of it.
Yeah.
And an E at the end of it.
Yeah.
The unicorn, unicorny. The bone, bony.
Mrs. Boney.
Ms. Boney, yes.
Yeah, and I like to joke that she's married to U.S. Superior Court Judge of the 3rd District, Richard Boney.
Too much.
Dick Boney.
Too
Get it? Dick Boney.
And then, of course, Green Man.
Yeah, Green Man.
Who, let's just take a wild guess for those at home. What do you think Green Man is?
A Green Man?
It's a Green Man.
I like how when Rachel said that one day, and I was just like, Green Man, and she just like looked at me like, what the hell are you doing? And it was just like, we're watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia right now.
Yes, no
Even though
comprehension.
that was a combination of 2 different.
It doesn't matter though.
It's all.
I got
it's all
it
in the
instantly.
fun, yeah.
If you say the tone, and I instantly think Day Man and Night Man, and I think, you know what? They
There's
also had a
got-
Green Man.
Yeah, they also
yeah.
had Green Man. So it
Yeah.
works out. It's double dipping into the Green Man thing.
Yeah. So anyway, on to fantasy football, where you put a hurtin' on Rachel.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not one for spousal abuse. Usually, sometimes depends.
Listen,
but
if it's
this week,
if it's digital, I don't.
digital bullying's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Well, because she called to brag at halftime. She was just like, "Oh, it looks like Antonio Brown started to make a little bit of a comeback, making things a little bit interesting for you." And I'm just like,
What was the final score that you had there?
117, 108. So I won by 9.
Okay. So,
But I mean, like, if there was one long touchdown pass to Antonio Brown at the end, I would have been screwed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I won in
he
my.
basically didn't do anything after in the second half, which is nice.
I won by 30, and I'm not here bragging. I'm just saying I won by 30, and you don't hear me with my exact score. I
Well, I had it in front of me, which is why I knew it.
Sure. I also, in my other league, have Schrodinger's game, which he fielded Ryan Fitzpatrick as a quarterback, and I had Mike Evans and
Doing that throw to him, but also throw interceptions every other play.
every other play I need an interception, but throw a touchdown to Mike Evans. And I also had
I want a 3 true outcome player. I want fumbles, interceptions, and touchdown passes to Mike Evans.
That's it. That's all I can use. And then I also had Roethlisberger, and I had the running back from Tampa Bay as well.
Yeah.
So it was like a bad combination, but it's Schrodinger's game. The last time I looked at it was right before I got on the bus, and it was like striking distance, but like depending on and I'm like, okay, so Mike Evans just got a touchdown, and I know that this is a league that is quarterback unfriendly, wide receiver friendly, so I know that I got more points than he did for that. Plus the yardage doesn't necessarily, it counts like more for the, like I don't want to do the math in my head, but I know it's like Schrodinger's game right now.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be like a 106, 108 finish.
Well, especially with like a PPR, it helps the wide receivers more than it does the quarterbacks.
Yes.
But the problem is that a quarterback is probably going to give you 15 to 20 points.
Yes.
Almost no matter what they do. Like that's a mean score for like a good quarterback.
Right.
So you have to do that thing of like, all right, he can do his 15 to 20 points, but I need to make up the points, so I need to have 10 for 100 and a touchdown to make that up.
Looking at going into the game, you're looking at the estimate, and it's like, okay, so that was figuring that Mike Evans is going to put up 13.
Yeah.
And right now he's on the way to 19. So figuring out how that estimate moved during the game, and when I flipped away and it was saying it was like estimate is 112 to 106, but it was halftime. Like, is there a chance that I made up those 6 points with Mike Evans? And who knows? I don't know. It's Schrodinger's game right now. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not going to know until I see it tomorrow, and I'll look at it, and then I'll either be very upset.
You got to wait for point changes and stuff like that.
Right. All I'm saying is that game this week, I was given a 17% chance to win, and it came down to
Monday night.
Yeah. And I happen to know the commissioner of that league, and she has been, people have shit talked me to her. She invited me to her private league. People have shit talked me to her all 3 weeks, and it was close loss, win, and then this game. And I'm like, when are these assholes who are going on to whatever podcast Corey listens to and listening to them, like following them biblically, going to realize that maybe Rob knows a thing or two about fantasy football? And I'm like going in there and I'm finding the sleeper and I'm putting him in, and then this happens where it's so close. So I guess we'll see. But again, Schrodinger's game. I'm very excited about it. Clearly, as you can see.
I would say one thing about fantasy this year. I don't know how much I mean, like, I think 14 teams are
14 leagues.
14 team leagues
Yeah.
are interesting. And the fact that there's not like readily available great players out there. So it's a bit of like a struggle to find the waiver wire pickups. And you don't want to drop somebody on your team because like, they'd be instantly gobbled up.
Yep.
But I think that maybe it would be worth discussing with the group if we want to do auction next year. Because I think it would add the level of like cunning that would be necessary for like success.
None of you guys can afford it'd be like me and Rob Clark.
What do you mean?
Auction style, where you have to pay for your waiver wire?
You have hypothetical money that you're using.
Yeah, no, but you pay actual money for the hypothetical money.
No.
Oh, that's bullshit then. No, I would do a real auction style where you're like...
Everyone starts with a cap of like $200.
Right, $200, and then it's like, I
throw
would like
out-
another $100
you
of
throw
cap
out
money.
player names.
Here's $20.
You never have to worry about that like, oh, OJ Howard is 3 picks away. I hope he falls to me kind of thing.
Okay.
If you want OJ Howard, you can have him just by outbidding everybody else. But the problem is that you don't want to get into these things like, like Justin Tucker would in our league, where somebody at some point just throws out Justin Tucker. It's like $1, and then it gets up to $29. It's just like, this isn't how kickers work.
You have $200 cap, and you're spending $30 on a kicker.
It's Rachel and Chelsea and Maggie all
Good.
good, throwing their money away on Tucker.
Yes.
He's cute. That doesn't equal points.
But speaking of fantasy play, I don't know if the writers of this season of America are getting real boring or getting real bored or what, but they threw us a wild card. The Fonz jumped a shark this week because the Cleveland Browns won a football game.
I know.
For the first time in 630 some days. And I checked.
It was 600.
I had 630.
Yeah.
Yeah, 630.
Oh, I thought you said 300.
No, 630. I know that because I checked my time hop streak, which is only slightly longer than the last time that the Cleveland Browns won a game. I started a time hop streak just before we left to move here. And I'm at 680 days right now.
Wow.
Right? And the Browns won their last game in December of 2016. Just after we moved here. So
I find myself a lot with time hop these days, though. Like I enjoy seeing what I have on there, but it's also like kind of like from Man on the Moon, where it's like bullshit, my line, bullshit, my line. Oh! Hilarious.
how is that?
Huh?
Why is that? What are you saying?
Like you're like going through and you're looking at the things you retweeted. Like
I know, and I'm just like, oh god, who was I thinking?
Where it's just like some random tweet where it's just like, well, that didn't work out well. And I'm like, what the fuck was that about?
I love those, though. I love trying to figure out what I could possibly have been thinking. And I also think...
This is like one of the bird's eye view guys, and it's just like, well, that's unfortunate. And I'm just like, what happened?
I flip through and I'm like, one day that will bring down my business empire. All right. And instead of going and finding it and deleting it, I'm just like, we'll roll the dice on that one for later.
I've started deleting more and more things. I've realized. And you know what? Honestly, like I think that a solid 75% of the things I delete are just grammatical errors.
Okay.
Like because on Twitter you still can't like fucking edit a tweet, which
Yes.
it bugs the shit out of me. So if you tweet something out, and then I might not have even noticed it at the time, but like
No, you
8
can't-
years later when I look back at it, it's just like time party, and I'm just like, oh god damn it, Corey.
Yeah, but
just
why?
delete that.
We can't have edit because we don't want people to be able to be like, oh, this horribly racist thing.
Oh,
that
I know.
said, let me edit it out.
I get it. But I'm just saying, like, it just ends up me going back and deleting these grammatically incorrect tweets, which bother me.
Good, we'll delete them.
I will. And it's never
I'm sure
anything
your
important.
13
It's never.
Twitter followers will be devastated that you're deleting your tweets.
First of all, 15.
How many Twitter followers do you have?
300 something.
Oh, what? Big
Yeah.
boss.
Eh,
300.
it's been going up more, though, recently. I don't know if it's just more bots or if it's like.
It is more bots.
Probably.
But it's also, I think you've been more active.
Yes, that's true. I've been trying to.
Always about activity. Just
Yeah.
about activity.
I gotta
Content.
just tweet more. The problem is that like I keep saying like I'm gonna like I think to myself like, oh, I'm gonna tweet something really pithy about Kavanaugh, and I'm just like, oh, but I don't want to tweet all the opinions I'm gonna have on the podcast.
I do
and then
think
I
that is
never
sometimes too.
I never
Yep.
talk about it. Like I if we look back on it a week later, I never actually said anything about it. So I'm just like. It happens a lot with like Catherine Pugh. Like I hear something stupid that Catherine Pugh said, and I'm just like, "Oh, I could roast her so bad right now," but then I decide
wait.
not to.
I'll save it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this on the podcast instead.
I got, this is weird because like I don't have a lot. My last
I have 324 followers.
I have 677, by the way.
Okay,
Doubled up.
you're
My
more
last-
active than I am.
I am. My last original tweet, started watching it this weekend. Highly recommend, referring to Maniac,
Yes.
which, by the way, highly recommend that. That was really good.
That's definitely one that you have to invest the time in, though.
Yeah.
Don't.
Ooh.
It's like The Wire. Don't watch it while you're doing other things because you're gonna walk into something and you're gonna be like, what? Who is that guy?
We had 5 people fully invested in it, and like 3 o'clock in the morning, like one more, or what do you think? It's only 10. We could probably get through this. Before that, I said new trend at the beach / Santa Monica. # white t-shirts. Just so you know. So all this quality and a lot of retweeting. There's this dude with a hat from Bike Metro.
That's me.
Yep.
The last original one I had was talking about the homicide rate in major cities.
That's
Where
right.
Baltimore is blowing out of the water every other city in the country.
So sad.
And I said, it almost seems like there's a horrible problem we need to correct immediately. Oh, well, Mayor Pew 50 has to get to a Ray Lewis parade on our Lime scooter. That will have to be next week Catherine's problem. Or not. Whatever.
And my last one before that was check out the live stream of this week's brand new O The Anthem podcast. So a lot of retweeting. If that's what you like, you can find that on my Twitter. Otherwise, just a few pithy things. Anyway, back to the point. Browns won a game. Isn't that nice?
That's where we started with this. I don't know how that devolved into Twitter, but it's the time hop streak. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway. Yes, it looks like the Browns actually have a quarterback, which is nice. And you know what? It felt so preordained once it happened. Like once he came in the game and like started making shit happen, I was just like, oh, they're gonna win this game.
This is it.
It's gonna happen now. As opposed to like, did you see any of the Cardinals game?
No.
I was watching Red Zone. I've never seen Red Zone before. I've never had it.
Oh,
So-
this weekend though, free.
Yeah,
weekend,
they had a
right?
free weekend
Yeah.
of Red Zone this weekend. So like when I got back and I was doing post sound, and I was like walking away from it because you can only hear like the same thing being said over and over again before you like lose your mind. So you can only stay in for like it's like a Matrix. You can only be logged in for an hour, and then
Right.
like you have to
Right.
like get away. You got to walk away for a few minutes. So I'd walk away and I watch Red Zone and I'd be like, Cardinals are in the 40. I have to watch this. But like Josh Allen came in. Is it Josh Allen?
Oh, what professional podcaster? Yeah.
No, Josh Allen is
No, he's in Buffalo.
Buffalo.
And he spanked Minnesota this week.
who's the one at the Cardinal? Rosen.
Yes.
from USC.
Yes.
Uh,
Not Darnold, who unfortunately had to be the other side of that
yeah, Browns loss.
Browns loss. Yeah.
But like, they threw Rosen in this game, and it just seemed like the exact opposite. It's just like, well, this can't get any worse. Let's throw in Rosen and just
See what happens.
go ahead, kid, get your lumps. Anyway, I think that's enough sports ball for one day.
No. Plenty
Don't-
more. Bud Light opened the fridges.
Oh yeah, that was a really genius marketing plan from them.
And it probably
It cost them nothing.
Yeah.
They already probably had the fridges,
And I already did.
and Bud Light costs like 10 cents a can. So
And why do you drink it at bars? I don't understand that. You paid $8 for that big beer.
Me?
Yeah.
Because I don't like the other beer.
You don't like Stella?
No, not really.
Oh God, you drink Bud Light over
I'm
Stella.
a cretin. That's,
Yes, you are.
I fully admit this.
Can we make that the new tagline for the podcast?
I'm a
Corey,
cretin.
wait. Remember when we had the old pictures that it was just like you and me sitting there?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want the one of you like, I'm a cretin. That's the one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember, like, I went to, when we almost got rained out of a Nationals game once, I went to find the closest sports bar.
Yes.
And, like, it was only craft beers.
Yes.
It was, like, a really snooty place. And, like, I remembered I'd ask him, I was just like, what do you ever, like, light beers? He was just like, well, we have this one. It's made from the mildewed tears of meese when they get
Meese. Yes.
when they get thrown out of their homeland during hunting season.
Mm-hmm.
And is mixed with rhubarb and barley and brown sugar, and we call it shit water.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know if I want that.
I love how you're comparing.
Can you just give me water with a little bit of barley in it? Like, that's really essentially what I want.
And I love that we sat the beers up on the table together, and Bud Light, which is the color of piss,
Yeah.
of like not even a healthy piss, just a light yellow color. And then next to it is Michelob.
Not a morning piss, like a mid-afternoon.
Mid-afternoon when you've had a bit of water,
Yeah.
but also a couple cups of coffee. And then you had Michelob next to it, which is a little better. And I set my Stella up there. And it's dark, and it's frothy, and it's delicious.
I mean, like, I wish there was a lot of things I liked, but I just don't, like, I can't do Guinness. I just don't like it.
Snake bites are good. Anyway, okay. So, yeah. But good on Bud Light for opening fridges and...
Making like the thing that was so great about it is like there's just like I imagine if we went to use like Snapchat like the geographic filter
Yeah.
and just went to Cleveland, we would see like 100 stories of people like getting their beer and be like, "Hey, Bud Light, look at me!"
The commercials forever.
Yeah.
The commercials forever.
And it's like free commercials because
Yeah.
it's just all your friends.
And I know that each one of those fridges had a camera on it somewhere that's like just happy crying Cleveland fans like
Yeah.
grabbing beers and being celebratory. And that'll be
Because
their
all the
Super Bowl
videos I
commercial.
saw of people like getting their beers, they were like on their phone and they're just like, "Hey, look at me with my free beer! I got a free beer."
That will be their Super Bowl commercial. Mark my words. It'll be, we celebrate the best of football. And it's Cleveland fans celebrating the first win in 2 years. Anyway, so moving on from happy things like that, I do want to say a hello to Kate, who is watching us in the chat right now. I believe that Keith is here along with us as well. And, of course, friend of the show, Roberto, who tried to interrupt the show with a phone call. Thanks, Roberto, for that.
He sent me a text. He's like, "Shit, I just realized what I did."
Yeah, welcome, Roberto. Listen to the show and hear your phone call come through. Nonetheless, we appreciate you guys for checking out the show. So one interesting thing, before we kind of get into national news and stuff that you guys have heard about, one story came across the tweets this week, and I sent it to Corey, and I said, we have to talk about this. And unless you are in the 6th District of Arizona,
I think so. Yeah.
you probably haven't heard about it, but there's a real dickhole out there named Paul Gosar.
Should I pull up the commercial?
Yeah, play the commercial. I think that's good. Let's give him a little. We'll give the family a little plus. So this guy's he's a real asshole. He's really he's a Republican. If you would know what we mean by that.
Probably a Trump Republican too.
Definitely a Trump Republican. And so Corey's gonna play a little bit of the commercial. Here we go.
For any of us.
It's horrible to have to do this.
To speak up against my brother, it brings sadness to me.
This isn't just about Paul. This is about their family.
A family defends
I
its
think
honor.
my brother has traded a lot of the values we had at our kitchen table.
I couldn't be quiet.
That's enough. So we'll put a link to the video
Yeah.
in the show notes. But the end of the story is this: that 6 of this
Those 6
congressmen's-
people were talking.
Yes.
Were all brothers and sisters of Congressman Goslar. And the Democratic opponent got them together in a commercial to talk about how shitty their brother is nowadays.
And just when you think, this is a public relations nightmare and it can't get any worse, the congressman then said, you know what? We need to respond. We cannot take this lying down. And I'm going to pull it up. I got it right here. His response was, my siblings who chose to film ads against me are all liberal Democrats who hate President Trump. These disgruntled Hillary supporters are related by blood to me, but like leftists everywhere, they put political ideology before family. Stalin would be proud. AZ04, hashtag AZ04, so it must be
Arizona 4th, yeah.
4th District of Arizona. And hashtag MAGA 2018. So yeah. Definitely. I know that the first response tweet, could it be that you're out of your fucking mind, baby?
So I raised the question to Rob. If you, assuming you had 6 brothers and sisters,
Yes.
would you, and a commercial was released like that when you were running for your re-election campaign in Congress,
Yes.
how would you react?
You would never see me again. I would send some underling out to a mic somewhere and just be like, the congressman thanks the 4th District of Arizona for its consistent support.
Don't vote
but-
for me. I'm not going to take the office. I'm done.
But he will not be taking any questions. He will not be doing any events. It's too late to have his name removed from the ballot, but he will, in the interim 4 weeks, be changing his name legally to something else. So thank you all for your support. I mean, how do you continue a race when 4 of the 6 of the sweetest people I've ever seen just rail against him, and they're his siblings?
What I think is also funny about it is like there's probably like 20 episodes of the podcast at the bare minimum where there's somewhere where Rob's just like, I don't give a fuck what people say about me. Fuck y'all bitches. Something like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's just like six of your really sweet family members say you're an awful person. It's just like, you know what? I think I'm done.
I mean,
I think that's the line.
if it's those 6, I think that's the problem. It's like those 6.
Yeah.
It's like a doctor and a football coach.
Right.
And I'm just like, how horrible a
What
person.
did you do?
Because the thing is, like, my parents don't agree with me politically. My sister is not nearly as extreme as I am. But
No.
yeah. But it comes to a point where they're just like, you know what? We're going to let him do what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay quiet. And if somebody came and stuck a mic in their face, they'd just be like, no comment.
Yeah.
And it takes an extra amount for you to be like, we're going to speak out about this. It takes an extra amount for you to go and support the guy running against them. And it goes above and beyond for you for 45 seconds to be tearing down your brother to be followed by, I'm Dr. Paul Fitz, and I approve this message. Like, I can't.
The other thing I think, like, if I ran for office and like somebody was like interviewing my dad about like some position I have, like he would just do what like all the Trump people who are on like TV right now, like whoever the like Trump campaign manager for Pennsylvania or something like that is, who's on CNN all the time, and it's just like Trump literally just stabbed somebody on 5th Avenue. Let's go to Chuck and see what he has to say. And it's just like, people stab people. What happens every day? Nobody seems to give a shit. Now it's the president, and everyone's got an up and a like.
How many murders are there in this
I
city
imagine
every single week?
I imagine my dad would do a very similar thing where he just like it'd just be like, Corey says that that we should clean up the Chesapeake Bay, and it's just like, think it's a good idea. Water should be clean, and he just runs away as quick as possible. He's like, I'm done taking questions for today.
So Kate
Like, I feel
chiming,
so dirty inside.
Kate chiming in the chat says, I would be an only child at that point. Now, but here's my response. Here's my problem with that, Kate, is that that's like saying, I'm mad at them for saying those things. I think when that happens, you have to be introspective and say, what have I done in my life? What missteps have I made? When 6 of my siblings will all get together, not only back my opponent, not only publicly back my opponent, but be put in a
Record an
campaign
ad,
commercial.
yeah.
Like, it wasn't like they called these people on the street. If you've seen the ad, go to the show notes of this episode, watch the ad. They are sitting in very like film-y places. Like, I'm out in a marsh where I enjoy watching nature, and I'm on a football field because I'm very but like the things that they're saying, I just can't with it. I would again. You can blame them. You can say I would be an only child. I would cut them out of my life. But you got to start asking yourself some tough questions. Like, maybe I'm the asshole. I got 6 ex-wives. They're all crazy. Listen, bro. Maybe the common denominator there ain't the craziness of the wives.
Yeah.
Maybe it's you.
Yeah, that's the question I always like to ask people that nobody likes to hear is like, when it's like, I have trouble holding down a boyfriend. I'm like, is it you? And they're like, no, not
course
me.
not.
It's like, well, is there anything that might be you? Like, just think about it for a second. Just like, could it be me? What would be those reasons? And then usually I get people go like, well, I guess I am a little bit jealous. I'm like, oh, see, maybe that's something that's contributing. Maybe you can, because I don't know these guys, so I can't make any determinations on them. I can listen to what you have to say about them, but that's not the same as me talking to them.
Listen,
all I got is you right now.
the only thing they have in common is that all of them are crazy and that I tried to set them all on fire. Okay? I don't know. There's no way.
All of them are crazy, and all of them accidentally almost got set on fire.
I'm just very handy with a cigarette. So,
It's like flicking it across the room and watching them burn.
So really, check out the commercial. It'll be in the show notes of the episode. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
And just like at the end of it, if you're not just thinking like, ooh, how can you be in the fourth and not vote against that guy? You're not even voting for the other guy, really. You're just like, I can't.
I mean, I understand why people would vote for him, though. That's the problem. Is that like I'm watching all these things. Like we were watching the circus last night.
Yeah.
And they go to like the Trump convention, and Steve Schmidt, who was like really seriously as Republican ever fucking got. He was McCain's campaign manager. He worked on W. Bush and Bush Sr. in various capacities. He was a company man.
Yes.
And he basically just made the mistake of saying, I think Trump is a bridge too far. And now all these fucking people were like chasing him out of this convention.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's like there was a woman on a bullhorn just going like, Steve Schmidt doesn't believe in Americans. Just like these fucking crazy people will do. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I feel like if I gave up references, like I was applying for a job and I gave references and my family was on there, and then it's just like somebody called up, it's just like, yeah, Brendan Baker, I just wanted to see how your brother acts, and like, you know, if he's a good upstanding person, if you think he's talented. Yeah, I mean he's
okay, I guess.
I mean he does torture animals, so pretty sure he's killed at least one person.
Just one.
I mean, I only know about the one.
Only at least one, yes.
By the way, congratulations to Brendan and Eventbrite, where he works, for
Yes.
going public this week.
Saw that.
Yeah, they had quite the throw him out, drag him out party going on. Not only in San Francisco and across the world, but in Vegas later that weekend, which is always a good sign of a party.
Listen, Brendan,
If
I
it
don't know
extends to Vegas.
I don't know if they're hiring over there, but I'd be willing to relocate to San Francisco.
I have startup experience. I know that's not
have-
what you're looking for at the moment, seeing as you just went public. But
Yeah, I have experience.
got the
both
heart
in-
of the startup.
I have startup experience. I have a corporate experience. I have legal experience. I'm all over. I'm a manager. I've done all that stuff. I'd be willing to take the BART from Oakland, where Ali can afford to live, all the way to San Francisco, where the office is. I already do that now. Yeah, it'll be fine. We'll be fine.
This is not quite that bad.
Reach out.
Downtown to Hollywood is not as bad as Oakland to San Francisco.
I think it's like an hour and 15 on the BART.
I mean, I guess it depends on where you live, too.
Yeah.
I mean, where you're going to be able to afford to live is in the center field of the Oakland Coliseum.
Yes, underneath the.
Underneath Mount Davis.
Yes, exactly right. Anyway, so one other story I want to touch on, which we didn't talk about, but I thought about after we were done. Did you see the story about Ted Cruz this week?
With Beto?
Yes.
I know that
story you might
I
have
know that
missed
they
about.
had a debate.
They did have a debate, which apparently everyone said they were going to live tweet, and everyone gave up on live tweeting about 5 minutes in because they were just like, they can't. It's
There's
not worth it.
video. Why the fuck are you live tweeting?
Well, no, just because they were just like, well, for people who weren't watching, because it was only local. I don't know. Was it national? I don't
I'm
think it
sure
was
there's video.
broadcast.
I've seen videos playing of it on Twitter and stuff. So I assume somewhere, if we went on like YouTube and said like Beto O'Rourke, Ted Cruz debate, we'd find it.
We could probably find a video. But they were live tweeting it because the video wasn't available nationally while it was happening. But in the end, basically, they said all the live tweets fell down into Beto makes good point. Ted Cruz makes personal accusation about him, which has no basis in truth. Beto tries to steer back to the point. Ted once again insults him personally. There was no point. But no, that wasn't the story I was talking about this week. That Ted Cruz, when asked an off-the-cuff question, blamed Botham Jean, the man who was shot by an off-duty Dallas police officer in his own apartment when she entered mistakenly. Blamed that man for being shot by said police officer.
Yeah, I feel kind of stupid that we missed that one like 3 weeks ago or whatever when it originally had happened.
Well, I think though she was immediately charged. She was immediately suspended. Mm-hmm. So I do have the feeling that like everyone knows that this is like a little out of control and that some version of justice is going to be done. But then politics kind of took over. And like the mayor is saying like, we back our police. And the police chief is the one saying like, this might be a bridge too far. I don't know that I support my officers when they're just like knocking on random doors.
The thing is like, this is one of the hypothetical examples that we would have thrown to a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And go like, well then, does the police officer, like, because there was a while where there were these incidents that were becoming national stories that weren't 100% like, wasn't like the Philando Castile thing.
Yes.
Where there was some like wiggle room in the other way of just like, well, we don't know exactly what happened. And we
this
don't
one
know
started
what led
out that
to the
way.
incident and everything.
This started
like
out that
yeah.
way. It's like, wait, she's in 1478. He's in 1378. The doorways look almost identical. The door was open. So like literally she was just like, did one of those like, he's standing in the dark. She thinks there's somebody in her apartment in the dark. And then come to find out like he's got a plant and this bright red doormat in front of his door.
Yeah.
They were friends. She'd been to his apartment before. So she knew what his apartment looked like. All right. Maybe they were sleeping together. That was possibly a thing. That they had a bad breakup. So anyway. So it looks like justice is going to be done.
Still, I feel like this is like the next step. Like, there's like too many of these, like where it just seems like it couldn't get any more ridiculous, and then here we are. So
yes, and more ridiculous. So Ted Cruz blames the man for being shot and killed by the police officer, and then calls Beto un-American for saying that there needs to be a thorough investigation and that the police officer probably should face charges for it.
Yeah.
So, Ted, I mean, keep on doing what you're doing because. As last I saw, I think Beto was actually up in that election. So
just again, go back to this old touchstone. If you have the same reaction to a crime being committed as you would if it was your favorite player on your favorite team, like let's say you really love Joe Flacco. I know this is clearly hypothetical, but
nobody does.
If you really, really love Joe Flacco, you're dying the wool for Flacco, and you find out that he punched out a waitress this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a fan of him and a fan of the team, you do that like, well, we don't know what the waitress said. We don't know what happened. We don't know what the...
All right, Ben.
We don't know what led to this situation. Let's can't prosecute him yet. We don't know nothing. But if it was... Roethlisberger and the Steelers, and you're just like, he punched a waitress. He should be dead for life. Like,
I don't say that because I got fantasy points on the line. All right, I already got Le'Veon on the sideline. Like, let's.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you find yourself in these situations where you're just like, well, it's a police officer, so I got to back him vigorously no matter what he did. Like, you got to look back at this a little bit. Like, everyone can be. Can cause problems, including and up to the president of the United States. So let's not do this like. We don't really know what happened between Trump and Russia. We know a little bit enough to at least keep it going.
Saw a story on the way home from a Blue Lives Matter website where they were supporting the arrest of a woman who went in during Hurricane Florence and saved animals, but did not have a license to house more than 2 animals, which is apparently the law in her county. So this Blue Lives Matter site was saying, hey, look at this person flaunting the law and back our brothers in blue who wrote her a ticket and then took her under arrest when they realized it was, in fact, a felony. So just after the hurricane ended, they came in and took her into custody for saving and housing animals during a hurricane. But that's the kind of thing where they listen, guys.
It's like one of those like even in literature we have the idea of like the crime for a reason. Like I'm stealing this loaf of bread because my family is starving.
Yeah.
And then even though you do that calculation as the audience where you're just like, oh, I know it's a crime to steal bread and it's hurting the local market, but he needs to feed his family too. Like what choice does he have? And then Jean Valjean has to spend time in prison.
He's gonna sing and talk to us about it. It's gonna be fun.
But we gotta, at this point, it seems like a pretty fucking stupid law, especially like hurricane. I feel like if it'd be like the hurricane's going on and I'm like in a raft trying to save people, and then there's one cop who's just like, "Hey, you're not at a crosswalk, jaywalking." And I'm just like, "Are we fucking serious? There's 8 feet of water."
He's sitting in a tree with a gun as you're coming down with a speedboat down the street. Like, whoa, slow it on down.
We have a strict 13 knots record or speed limit here on this street. It's
What?
just like, what?
But yeah, it's you just got to ask yourself at what point, and not only for the cop who arrested her or started the writing ticket and then arrested her, but the website that then's like, you know what? We back the blue here.
Fuck this woman.
We back the blue. Like somebody typed that out and was like, yes, we're gonna do this. But again, if I wrote a script where that was there's a Law and Order episode.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Who is the bad guy by the end of that episode?
The cops.
Clearly, it's the cop. Like, how that can we make that the new test? Listen, Blue Lives Matter websites. If you hear a story and you think to yourself, how would this be in Law and Order episode? And at the end of it, the cop's the bad guy. Probably not a story you want to be backing. I don't know.
Well, you know,
Just
it's
saying.
funny. I've been watching a lot of Law and Order SVU to fall asleep at night recently.
Have you now?
Yes. And there's been a couple episodes where they talk about like police shootings and stuff like that, but they always do like enough to like make it paint it like,
Yes.
like the cop didn't do anything bad here. So like they would never actually put their cops in a position to like do something wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like you got to come
Well, no,
back
they might
next
be
week to the same.
investigating another bad cop. though.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're the ones looking.
Yeah, but
they're
like
the ones,
whenever they have to actually investigate bad cops, it's bad cops who've gone so far beyond
true.
where it's just like it's like gun trace task force type shit where it's
Yeah.
just like these people are out of the control. Like
we can't have it. By the way, I do.
and unlike in real life where those people are allowed to thrive and kill people for years.
I appreciate that we're making Ben Roethlisberger notes about him assaulting people, and then I make a joke about him being on my bed. And of course, we have a Steelers fan who says black and gold, despite the fact that we're talking about Ben Roethlisberger assaulting somebody. But you know, that's all water under the bridge.
Let us not forget that in his official police report it says that he said to a woman that he was that was friends of somebody he would later sexually assault. Drink up, all my bitches drink shots. And then she said, normally I would be really offended if somebody called me a bitch. But it was okay when Ben said it because he said it in a party kind of way. Which is one of my all-time favorite police report moments.
And,
the good of the police. It's one of the moments where they came through for us.
Speaking of Ben Roethlisberger, in the news because he escorted Stormy Daniels to a hotel room, and much like every woman who's ever been in his presence, she felt a little weirded out and wasn't sure if she wanted him to be around her. Did you not hear that story?
No.
Oh, yes. So Stormy.
Is Ben Roethlisberger still single?
No, I think this was back in like 06.
Oh, okay.
This was back around the same time as the allegations.
Because I feel like he got rape charges and then got married real quick.
Well, of course he did.
Where it's just like, my wife, who I married earlier today.
She is my biggest
supporter.
Yeah,
she knows
absolutely.
I wouldn't do anything like this. We've known each other for a fortnight, so.
So yes, apparently back in 06 or something like that, earlier in his career.
And now that I said that out loud, I can put Fortnite in the tags.
Hashtag Fortnite. So Stormy came out amongst other things this week, including a Mario revelation.
If there was anything that you would ever, fuck. If there was ever anything that you knew that we would have to talk about on this podcast if it came up, The description of the president's dick would be certainly among the top of that list. I'm not saying I'm proud of it. I'm just saying.
And I don't want to talk about it a long time.
We've set it. We've set a precedent.
I'm
so-
just saying.
But apparently, it looks like Toad.
Yes, from Mario.
Yeah. Small, not impressive, huge head.
Yeah, and he was apparently very satisfied with the sex that he was having with Stormy, and she was less than impressed.
Yeah. So there we go. Pretty much everything I guess you.
Everything I would expect, really.
What I would think would be really funny is if the perjury trap that Mueller just sets for him is the dick.
Can you describe your
It's just
manhood
like,
to me?
they're sitting at the table. It's just like Mueller's just like, pull your pants down. What? So like, oh, I heard some things about your dick. I just want to make sure they're right. Just want to make sure we're all.
It's massive. You couldn't even handle it. It's the biggest dick you've ever seen.
Oh well, we're on the record now. Shall we pull those pants down and find out?
This room is very cold. I don't appreciate this line of questioning.
This would be a great way of getting all the senators to stop talking, because then it would just be like some reporter comes up to Mitch McConnell and it's just like, did you hear that the perjury trap that was set for Trump was involved him lying about the size of his dick? And it's just like, yeah, I think that's shameful. I think it's shameful action by the special counsel. Well, how big's your dick? Conference over. Mitch McConnell ain't getting into this bullshit.
Mitch McConnell
You ain't bringing down Grandpa Mitch like this.
He kind of looks like a penis,
I
actually,
know.
like all around. But speaking of senators who don't want to talk about Trump, Rod Rothstein may or may not be fired.
Rod Rosenstein.
Rod Rosenstein. What? Rod Rothstein. That's a porn name. I think I got Stormy Daniels on the break.
That's gonna be the name of the character in the porn version of the Trump White House.
Rod Rodstein. Yes, you're welcome.
He's gonna steal all the hot bitches that President Trump is trying to Drumpf is trying to get, and they're gonna have like a little rivalry going on.
Did I hear somebody choking? Are we okay? Yeah, she's fine. Okay. All right, so as long as she's fine. Yeah, so Rod Rosenstein, not Rod Rodstein, Rod Rosenstein may or may not be fired. He may or may not have resigned. He may or may not be about to be fired. And he may, or he does, have a meeting with Trump on Thursday.
Yeah, when he comes back from New York.
May or may not have been called to the White House today for whatever reason. All of this is just a smokescreen. I mean, like, you joke about him, like Mitch McConnell going out and having this is despicable. Literally, this is just Trump. And that was the report. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's totally something he would do. Like, all right, we need to throw some chafe in the air. Let's see.
What could we possibly?
We're going to fire Rod. Just put leak it. Leak it, we're going to fire Rod. And then Leaky resigned.
And then leak that he's going to talk to us and make this all they talk about on CNN for the next 2.5 weeks.
Right. And, of course, the meeting is Thursday, which is also the day in which Miss Ford said that she would be happy to testify, and it looks like she will testify. So, conveniently, this story is going to take from today until Thursday. The day that Grassley said is the deadline is Wednesday, and the date that Miss Ford says she will testify
So we have
is Thursday.
4 more days of Wolf Blitzer going like, is Rod Rosenstein out? Let's talk to 15 people and find 15 people who have no idea what the fuck's going on and find out.
You know, guys, we're on a tight clock. Why don't we all speak at the same time? Go.
I think it's despicable that Rod Rosenstein is gonna.
Rod Rosenstein's a porn star. Why is he even in as Attorney General?
His dick doesn't look like Toad.
Yeah, so that's a
just
thing.
like one person at the end. It's just like, he certainly likes black people. It's just like, what?
Why did like an odd argument to
Why
make?
was that piled on at the end? Sounds like you're a little bit worried about something.
Got a bit of a guilty conscience. You're the guy who like is shouting at the girl right when the music comes down. So,
Listen, I
think you got nice tits. Damn it. Every time.
Speaking of unfortunate things that happen between women and people, we can talk more about Kavanaugh.
And so, like, here's the thing. Speaking of Gosar earlier, Gosar, whatever his name is. At this point, how if
I
you
am
are
the keymaster, the gatekeeper.
At this point, if you are Kavanaugh, how have you not just withdrew your nomination?
I think
your self-nomination.
I think he thinks I think he's got somebody who's telling him, you're going to get through this. It's just going to take a little bit longer. There's going to be a little bit more of a bump here, but you'll get through this because there's nothing to this, you know? Like, what can they possibly show that is proof or evidence of this? I would say this. Kavanaugh took a very unusual step of being interviewed on national television tonight.
Not unusual, unprecedented.
Well, I
for a
mean,
nomination.
it hasn't happened since what, like, God, the 60s or 50s or something like that?
Back when it was three news stations.
Yeah.
And it was Walter Cronkite or Dan Rather.
Walter Cronkite.
But yes, he did an interview.
Where he said, I couldn't have done all these awful things because I was a virgin throughout all of high school and a couple of years into college. So clearly I could never sexually assault anybody because I wouldn't have been a virgin anymore, which doesn't make any fucking sense. It actually makes it worse. In my mind, it makes it worse because...
Because I have it right here, right? So you're saying through all these years that you were in question, you were a virgin.
Yes.
That's correct. Never had sexual intercourse with anyone in high school. That's correct. And through what years in college, since we're probing your personal life here? Many years after. I'll leave it at that. Many years after. Corey, let's go through the list of things you would rather say on national TV than the fact that you were a virgin until many years after college.
That there was a homeless guy who died in my trunk, and I just left him there because I didn't know what to do. It was a snowy day. My whole car was full, but there was room in the trunk for whatever reason. So I said he could get in there, and then I was going to drop him off at the nearest town, and then I just kept driving, and I forgot about it for a couple of days, and then I realized he was dead, and I didn't know what to do. It's just like, do you have sex in high school? Of course I did. I fucked everybody.
I don't know if you see my yearbook. I mentioned it in my senior statement
Senior
there.
quote.
Yeah, did you see
Everyone
that?
got fucked by Big Brett. That's what it's.
I mean, like we make fun of it, but like in the end, like if that question gets asked, and this is what I told you at work. If that question gets asked, I push back, I take the mic off, and I'm just like, we're done.
I think I'm good now.
I walk out. I call whoever. I call Rod Rosenstein at the White House. I'm like, I'm out. I don't know who
don't
I'm
wanna
gonna
do
call.
this
You got to
anymore.
call. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not answering that. But yo, look at who was it who was doing the interview?
Oh, it's one of the blonde Fox News
Yeah,
people.
I just look at her and be like, my wife is here.
She's right here.
Right here. You gonna ask me if I was a virgin when we met? I met her in college. Really? God.
Of course, she was the first woman I was ever with.
Although I mean that might work out for him, right? Because
No, I mean,
they're
like,
all
you know.
Christian and stuff. So
the thing that gets me about this whole thing is that I would be more worried. Technically speaking, I know this isn't like based off of any case law or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm more worried about the virgin when they're talking about whether or not somebody sexually assaulted somebody. Because I feel like, at least in my mind, and I'm not trying to make I'm not trying to make light of sexual assault here
Right.
by any means. I'm just saying that if it was somebody who was, meeting women and having sex on a regular enough occasion, then I feel like they would, if there was some sort of incident where they thought they needed to push a little bit further, they'd be like, you know what, not worth it. I'm gonna see somebody else along the line, and
Yeah.
this is gonna work. But if you're like desperate, I remember all those like really horny, desperate virgins in high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The ones who had no game and no chance or anything like that. If they felt like, putting in football references, if they felt they crossed midfield with some girl,
All right.
Hail Mary passes until I'm in the end zone. I am not going to casually work this ball down the field. I am just going to immediately just start throwing it.
I don't have that kind of
Bro.
opportunity. I don't usually get in this position. I just need to do what I
This
can
is
do.
the furthest I've gotten. I've learned where you live. You've told me that.
Listen, ladies, if you have ever come out of the bathroom when you've had like a study partner over and found a naked man in your bedroom, that's the dude who's a virgin, who's like, all right, I'm in a room. It's 9:00 at night. The parents aren't there. this means sex, right? This is definitely means sex.
This isn't
I'm just
studying.
I'm gonna
This
get
isn't
naked.
studying.
I'm just getting totally naked, and we're just gonna see what happens. I'm gonna put it out there.
Well,
I'm gonna shoot my
it's
shot.
also you like texting all your other virgin buddies, where you're just like, dude, it's 9 o'clock and we're in our home all by ourselves. This definitely means sex, right?
Absolutely.
And then they go like, yeah, it definitely means sex. Get naked now. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna do it.
shoot your shot. Shoot your shot, bro. But
What's the worst that happens is she walks out and sees you naked? She's just like, I'm sorry, I don't want sex right now. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. You put your clothes back on. You're in the same position you were before. Definitely aren't scarring her for life. I don't get what.
But somebody at work brought up today, like, I believe the story that he exposed himself. Maybe not the other stuff, but at least that he exposed himself. Because I know people who did that. Who literally were just like, hey, I'm a virgin. I have no idea what I'm doing, but you look interested in me, so I'm just going to show you my dick and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
I knew people like that in college. I'm sitting right next to one right now. And
Not me. So I have a
not
story.
Big Core. Everybody was fucking Big Core in high school.
Everyone knows Big Corey's where it's at. Get yourself a one-way ticket to Big Corey's house. There was I'm going to tell a story from high school, and I'm going to keep the names out of it so as to not embarrass anybody. But there was a virgin guy in high school who was
His name was Dory Dakin.
who was trying to make moves on one of the few women who was at my high school, because we were a very small school with very few women.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up behind her when she was at her locker and licked her ear. And then he got suspended for a couple days. And, like over time, it all seemed to like work itself out. And now that's not
that was a mistake.
That's not a high crime or anything like that. But if somebody said to me, hey, that guy who licked the ear in high school is now nominated for the Supreme Court, I'd say, no, don't let him do that.
That's not a guy. That's not a guy you want on the
That's not the
Supreme
type
Court.
of person you want as a Supreme Court justice. I don't even give a shit if it was a lick of the ear, which isn't, throwing somebody in a broom closet or doing anything completely untoward.
Not
but
what's
it's still,
alleged here.
It's still not acceptable behavior, and that is, to me, the line that I'm willing to draw on whether or not, if you smacked a girl's ass or something like that because you thought you had that kind of relationship, and then she turned back and she's like, I don't like that. And you're just
my bad.
never happen again.
Nope.
Never happen again. I thought we were cool like that. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cross the line. That would probably be somewhere in the area of the I can be swayed to realizing that this isn't a big deal and it's a little bit of tomfoolery.
Yes.
But
Licking the ear?
licking the ear
Too much.
while still almost nothing is still a line that I feel like I'm going to stick at.
Yeah.
And to me, the trying to undress Christine Blasey Ford and get to her swimsuit and exposing himself to women in college is past the licking the ear point.
And hearing the story, the version of the story from Miss Ford from her letter, it sounds like the only thing that stopped him really was his drunk friend who was egging him on, being too forceful in egging him on, and then they tumbled into the floor. Like at one point, the guy was jumping on the bed like, yeah, get it. And when he jumped on the bed, he accidentally knocked him off, and they both went off into the floor. And then she escaped. So, yes, it only went that far, but really only because his jerk-ass friend saved... I don't want to say saved her. That sounds really bad. But you know what I mean? Like, it didn't even intervene on her behalf, but intervened, and because of that, allowed her to escape.
I do think, though, it does... It brings up an interesting, not necessarily like legal question, but just sort of like general acceptance question. Because I mean, like, I think we can all agree that guys between the ages of 13 and 25 are completely awful, dumb
They
shit,
should all
terrible.
be locked up, and then all of society's ills would go away. If
I
we
mean-
locked up every male between 15 and 25, we would have no problems.
I mean, like, I feel like in taking personal account of things that I've done during that time, I never did anything that would be viewed as any kind of like, sexual abuse or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I definitely did stupid things because I wasn't thinking enough.
Yes.
Like, I remember calling a girl I had a crush on, the first girl I ever had a crush on, like 10 years later, and going like, hey, so I know I haven't talked to you in a while, but you want to go out and get dinner sometime? She's just like, no. I'm like, all right. then.
Sure, thanks.
And then I like walked away and I was just like, why did I think that was a good idea? Why did I think that was going to work?
Yeah.
But I mean, like that, that's not, there's nothing wrong. There's no crime there. That's just me being a dumb teenager. And there's many other dumb teenagers out there who are doing things that are, licking the ear, which is a little bit questionable, but not a crime. But at the same time, like, I'm a little bit worried about the idea of going back 30 years in somebody's past and bringing up some dumb thing they did in high school as like a reason to keep them from being in a job, but also you have to factor in what the thing was.
Okay, yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, like, I feel like if it was licking the ear,
yeah,
even though I said I would not want that guy to be a Supreme Court justice, maybe that was the only fault that Kavanaugh ever made.
Right.
Like he walked up on some party, on some girl when he was drunk at a party and licked her ear thinking that it would be like this funny thing. And then she really got offended by it.
Yeah.
But like that, at least to me, could be explained in somehow to the mostly male Republican senators of the Judiciary Committee as like, listen, we were all teenage boys. We were all full of hormones. We were all fucking stupid.
Yeah.
This was the one fucking stupid thing I did that I wish I could take back. And of course I didn't do it because I've been saying I haven't been doing it, but I kind of did it. So,
well, I mean, and keep in mind, like, Anita Hill wasn't a big deal because of what Clarence Thomas did. Well, yes, it was. But it was also a big deal because she asked him to stop. And he basically continued to do it because he knew it made her uncomfortable. Once she said, please stop this, he knew it made her uncomfortable. And then he did it anyway. And that's the limit. I mean, honestly, I think that most of the, I don't want to call them childish pranks or childish hijinks or whatever, but like the slapping of the girl's ass. Yes, inappropriate, completely inappropriate, given what we know now, but 16-year-old boy, 16-year-old girl, lots of hormones flying. You think that it's a different relationship. But do you think that if you do that girl shows up to your Supreme Court hearing? If you're generally a good guy otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like the problem here is that there are a multitude of things that can be acceptable under certain circumstances. If I slap your ass, for instance, like if you're walking by me and I just give you a slap on the ass and say something hysterical, then you're not going to get upset with me because I'm joking, and this isn't coming from like I'm trying to sexually dominate you kind of place. It's just like I'm doing some stupid prank or something like that. But like if I do that to just some random woman walking down the street who I have no knowledge of, or she doesn't know who I am, then that's a problem. But the problem is that an action like that can have it's perfectly acceptable even amongst like friends, and it's absolutely not acceptable in any circumstances. That there's that at what point along the line does it become? And that line for everyone might be different. And I'm not saying go out and slap people in the ass or do anything that Kavanaugh has been doing or lick people's ears or anything like that. I'm just saying at a certain point we have to like, the same thing was happening to a degree with the Democrats when Al Franken was in trouble.
Yeah.
Where it's like his crimes were not as up to the level as the other people who were in the Me Too era.
Yeah.
He was on the lower end of the scale. I think we could pretty much say the same thing for Kavanaugh here to an extent, depending on what Blasey Ford has to say, because we only have the one article to go off of.
Right.
And
the letter,
and we don't know. We haven't delved into the specifics enough to know exactly what kind of story we're dealing with here. In principle, I think trying to rip off a woman's clothes is over that line, but. Like there's a lot of questions that could be asked that could change the math on this a little bit.
Most importantly, let's just say there are two current accusers: Miss Ford, who is going to testify on Thursday. It looks like
two known accusers.
Well,
I think there's more that are like sort of in the wind right now.
Getting to that,
okay.
Ms. Ramirez, who has come out and talked to what's his name at New York Times,
Ronan Farrow.
Michael Avenatti says that he also has a third
that would probably be my line.
What?
If I'm Brett Kavanaugh, I don't worry so much about having to have a sex talk with Fox News, because I know that they're going to paint this in some wonderful way for me. My problem is when I'm when I hear that Ronan Farrow is on the phone.
Gotcha.
Just like, you know what? Can somebody get me McConnell? I think I'm not going to do this
I'm
anymore.
done. I'm good.
Tell him if he doesn't write whatever he's writing, I just won't be a Supreme Court justice.
But so
see if he's willing to make that trade.
Ms. Ford's going to testify. Mr. Ramirez talked to Ronan Farrow, so the story's out. Michael Avenatti says he has at least one more, and apparently there may be several more out there. So, notwithstanding all of those stories, which I think that it's safe to say that no matter what the story is, we should believe these accusers that are coming out with stories. Every one that I've heard thus far, I've heard that there have been secondary people who heard it at the time, heard the same story years later, heard the same story years later. Here's my question, completely separate from that.
Yes.
If Judge Kavanaugh was not known to be basically anti-woman, anti-gay, anti-everything that, I don't want to call them the left, but everything that the left stands for, do these people come forward? If I'm going to put a hypothetical to you this way, not with Judge Kavanaugh. The most extreme leftist person you could probably say in real life.
Yeah.
A person who's...
I mean, basically, you're if you were a Supreme Court justice, you would be a Molotov cocktail inside of a robe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If I were to come out and I was to be
It's a good example of good description of you.
If I was to be put up for the Supreme Court, knowing that my position on Roe versus Wade is that I, as a man, should take no position, and that a woman should have complete right to decide what to do with her body, whatever that is. That equality means true equality and nothing else. Well, basically, everyone who's listened to this podcast knows my perspective.
Yeah.
And let's say that I have some horrible story in my past that involves a woman.
Do you?
That involves a woman. Let's just say, what is the likelihood that that comes out? Or is it that because Kavanaugh is so anti-woman, that these accusers from the past say, I cannot let this happen? If I had that and I came to the Supreme Court, would someone stay silent simply because I idealistically more represented what they were looking for?
I think that there would certainly be somebody. It's kind of a luck of the draw to an extent. I don't like using that term to describe this exactly, but I mean, like, if the person you wronged was
Nancy
a
Pelosi.
Republican,
Well, if it was Nancy Pelosi.
yeah. Well, I mean, if the person you wronged
Like
has
Nancy Pelosi, not
actually Nancy
Yes.
Pelosi. But I'm saying, like, if it was Nancy Pelosi, then she probably wants you to get through, and she's probably going to sit on the information that you at one point sexually assaulted her.
Yes.
To allow this to happen.
Right.
You know, like, she wouldn't have to vote on it anyway, but I mean, like, she would probably just, like, quietly bite her lip and let this one go. I mean, I'm sure that if Merrick Garland had gotten to the testimony part of becoming a Supreme Court justice, and he said something that, like, riled up people, then the Democrats would find some sort of way to quietly try and, like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's not that big of a deal that Judge Merrick Garland said that not everyone should have the same rights to vote because some people are inferior to others. I'm sure he was just talking about people with felonies.
Yeah.
And let's not ever ask him any more about it. Like,
But your point is that if because I grew up in a very conservative area, the likelihood that this woman might be conservative and might then come out and accuse because she is a Trump supporter doesn't want me on the bench.
I mean, like, I feel like the example of and again,
See, it's hard with the
it's
woman's
hard,
issue, though.
It's hard to say in general because you don't know how people, like, the thing that with Blasey Ford, this might have stuck with her no matter who it was.
True.
The incident is the thing that's bothersome.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the same thing, like, just replace Kavanaugh with Garland.
Right.
And everything happens in the exact same timeline as it was otherwise, I feel like we would still hear the story.
Well, see, Merrick Garland was a conservative, was a moderate. I'm talking about me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about somebody who
Super left. Yeah.
And where even the most conservative woman is like, listen, I wouldn't get an abortion, but like, I mean, there are super conservative women who are like, no, you shouldn't do that either. But most women, even on the right, are like, it's not my choice, but I don't want to tell any other woman what to do. It's men on the right who want to tell everybody what to do.
I know quite a few women on the right who are not okay with women making choices.
So absent that, you find
Because I mean, like
a moderate
certain
to a
people on the right are it's murder to them.
Forget about it. I don't want to get into the. I don't want to get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah. Oh, I
doldrums of
know,
that.
I know,
My
but-
point is, how much of this is that Brett Kavanaugh spent his life abusing women, seemingly, allegedly, and then took positions that were very anti-woman on the bench, and that is now leading to the situation that he has.
I mean, I guess you could say there's a certain degree of karma coming back on it
Yeah.
for that sort of thing. But I mean, you know, I think that the problem is that I'll boil it down to this, and it's so hard to talk about this in the parenthetical because obviously, you know, it has to do with it's beyond politics whether or not somebody is sexually assaulted and like what happens, how they feel about it or how they react to it, or if they would, you know, like bury it inside if it was somebody who they felt was for the greater good. You know, like I can't possibly begin to think about how people approach their issues in regard to this. But I would say that just generally speaking, the figure on the right, the Kavanaugh type, is more susceptible to if there's if he has some sort of sexual assault history, then it's also going to be brought up in terms of anything he ever said about women, anything he ever ruled against women, you know, all these sort of things just become part of the discussion. Whereas if it's you running for the Supreme or the nominated for the Supreme Court seat, then there's going to be a lot of you can't talk about the number of times that you said that, you know, like I don't care what women say, they shouldn't be allowed to have abortions anytime. Then like that's not getting brought into that's not being shown on news coverage at the same time. So it doesn't pile on as much. And more generally, it seems like a democratic opposition to something like this, like some sort of you know, like tales of sexual assault, like in a situation like this, are seen by the general public as this is a reasonable everyday American who was sexually assaulted and is trying to tell their story. Whereas a person on the right who has a problem with somebody on the left, like you, running for the seat or being nominated for the seat, is that the person on the right is going to look like a crazy nutcase. In some degree, because their stories are going to be mixed in with the crazy nutcases who are going to tell them. And I'm not saying there's not crazy nutcases on the left and the right, but I mean, like, you know, like once you start getting Alex Jones going, it's not quite the same as when
Joe Rogan.
No, what's her face? MSNBC. Maddow gets going. Like, you know, Maddow at her craziest is not as bad as Alex Jones at his craziest. So that's part of the thing right there.
I think just in the end, though,
I feel like everybody in the middle, everyone who like you might not necessarily know where they lean politically. Like Jake Tapper, I feel like does a good enough job of trying to stay out of it.
Okay.
He's probably very liberal, but like at the very least, he leads questions in a way that it seems like he's trying to be the arbiter in the middle of his show. So people like that are going to take it as a serious issue, regardless of whether or not it's Democrat or Republican. It's the fringe characters that are really what we're talking about. The Alex Joneses, the Bill O'Reillys, the Hannitys, the
You're naming all people on the right, though.
Well, no, but I'm saying like I was going to get into the left, but I was trying to remember what his name was. Maddow. God damn it! Why can't I think of his name? Jackson, Reverend Jackson.
Reverend Jackson.
Yeah, who am I thinking of?
No idea.
He's on MSNBC like all the fucking time.
I don't watch MSNBC.
I think it's Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, sure, Jesse Jackson Jr.
Who am I thinking of? I don't know.
Also,
Whatever.
the guy who has his own podcast network now. Dang, I can see him. He's got glasses. Glenn Beck.
Oh, Glenn Beck. Yeah,
Glenn
yeah,
Beck. Although he's kind of on the right now. He went
Well,
from,
he's
like,
always
far
been,
left.
he's always been on the right.
Well, he went from far left to far right, kind of back to the left, but in like a very nationalist left.
He did the whenever he was on the left, he was always on the left in a
Nationalist.
well, like in a way like I am, like where I'll say something like, you know, like I think that decisions should be made more at the local level than the federal level. I think the federal government should be really small, but at the same time, I think if you want to marry whoever you want, let's just do that. Like I don't give a shit if two guys want to get married. Let's just do it.
In the end, I think 2018.
That was more the Beck platform where it's like he's super right on some things, but then every once in a while he's just like, yeah, why don't gay people?
They've said 2018 is the year of the woman, and we have more women running for office in 2018 than we ever have before. Likelihood that more women will win in 2018 than ever have before. We'll have more congressional representation for women than we ever have before, and we have a Supreme Court nominee that is going to be the key witness is going to be a woman, and the key votes just depending on whether no matter whether or not they see it or not, are two women, Collins and Murkowski, who are going to decide whether or not he ends up on the Supreme Court. And the one thing I keep going back to is what I read. One thing I read today, which is that if McConnell had the votes, we would already have a vote. That somebody in there is saying, I want to hear what she has to say. So you don't have my vote until I hear what she has to say.
I would like to say one last thing, just because it popped to my mind right now. I get why people are harping on Murkowski and Collins about this, because they are the only women Republican senators that they feel can be swayed by the policies of or like the decisions of Kavanaugh. But I think that if you live somewhere and you feel like your senator is going to vote for Kavanaugh and you don't like it, call them, please.
Yeah.
If you live in fucking Arizona, I feel like I think it's a little bit.
Well, Arizona's not a good one because the guy who's in the seat is not running for the seat.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying like Flake had the reason why we didn't have the vote in the judiciary is because Flake said he wanted to hear more.
True.
He wasn't going to vote yes until there was more to do. And it seemed like that Flake and whoever else was going to vote with Flake on that issue was what kept it from going through in judiciary.
Yeah.
Which is the necessary step before it goes before the full Senate. So, I mean, like, I get why people are trying to get on Murkowski and Collins because they're women Republicans and you feel like you can sway to them on a woman level. But I feel like if you live anywhere that has a Republican senator that is possibly going to vote for this and you don't like it, call them, because it Jeff Flake doesn't give a shit about sexual assault or McConnell. I mean, like, obviously, like, these people are just going to vote for him. But I'm saying, like, the more people who call and say, this is a one issue for me. If you vote for Kavanaugh, I'm not going to ever vote for you.
Yeah.
And if enough people call and say that, then they'll just drop him out. If they know that there's no way that they can win politically in this issue, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And just forcing your prayers onto Collins and Murkowski seems kind of shitty in a way, because you're minimizing the issue like only women give a shit about it. And
well, keeping in mind that most people who listen to this are going to be in California, Maryland, and Massachusetts, none of which have any say in this debate, unfortunately.
But I'm saying, like, maybe somebody's phone who was stolen at a party and got this thing downloaded, and they actually live in Alabama. They can call it. Well, I mean, like, half of Alabama they don't have to worry about anymore. But I mean, like,
thanks, Flash.
You can talk to them about many of the other Republican senators that are out there, or tell a friend. Fuck, somebody's got a friend in Arizona. Call somebody. Like,
sure.
Call somebody in Mississippi. I don't give a shit. Just you gotta make the steps if you care about this. That's basically what I'm getting at.
Yes.
And don't just put all your hopes on two women Republicans. Like, you're going to be able to get to their conscience about it. If you could get to anybody's conscience about it, do that. Don't worry. Don't just point your finger at the women.
You know where you should point your finger?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. And you can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, at LegendCB5 on Twitter and Instagram, Corey Baker Film on Facebook, and the YouTube channel where reviews happen. And, hey, real quick, go to my website when you get the opportunity, because I just refreshed it, and I think it looks really nice. And I'd like to hear people's thoughts. So if you have anything to say, if you hear this and you want to go check out my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, and tell me what you think, I would greatly appreciate it.
Sure. And, of course, you can find more of me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to my political blog, the news website, and the books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rob's books.
And if you're feeling frisky, I guess you can check out the Wattpad. The story is finished, so you can finish out the entire story that's on there. Sure. Why not? That's where I'm sending people at work to. Everybody was like, "Hey, where can I read something that you wrote?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, Amazon." And they're like, "Where can I read something that you wrote for free?" I'm like, "Okay, Wattpad." That's all.
I also like how you changed your team name in the Posse League to calls available
now. Apparently, some of my friends forgot I have a book that's available right now that they could go and buy. So I wanted to remind them.
Just like to say for the record that I've usually been one of the first people to buy the books.
Yes.
So
And I do have.
I'm in the best friends club.
I do have books that I need to ship out to people too. And they're literally boxed, and I just cannot find the time to take them somewhere to ship them. So I'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
I also think I need addresses. So people, you may be hearing from me because I need to get addresses from you.
Well, if you need me to make a drop one day, I can do that. So
I
just let me know.
think the addresses are what's holding me up. Like,
Okay.
I have everything ready, but then I need to get the addresses either from website or from that people. So we'll see. Books are coming though, so don't worry about that. And we're working on new stuff. So hey, check that out.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
And if you didn't like anything you hear about it, just hear about this episode, just call Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and tell them that you don't want any more of this.
Yes.
Because they're the only people you can call. Really, literally the only Republicans you can call.